Welcome to the Beaches Watch monthly meeting. Tonight we're going to hear from our distinguished public servants from each of our beaches cities. We have Chief Michelle Cook from Atlantic Beach. We have Commander Gary Snyder from Neptune Beach. And we have Commander Mark Evans from Jacksonville Beach. So if you would like to make your way to the front, or you can wait and then come up when you're ready to speak. Either way. I'd just like to make a few announcements before we get started. So I'm Maria Mark, I'm the Beaches Watch president. And for those of you who do not know what Beaches Watch is, we are a grassroots citizens organization where our mission is to educate our citizens here at the beach so they can make informed decisions, they can stay in touch with their local officials, and that way they can contribute to enhancing our quality of life here at the beach. So we hold these monthly meetings, as well as candidate forums and other forums to make sure that our citizens are informed. Our meetings are being videotaped. It will be uploaded tomorrow morning. The agenda, I hope you got the agenda when you walked in. It shows all the upcoming meetings, and the agenda is also going to be posted on our website as well. We're always having our membership drive, so if you have not joined Beaches Watch, we would appreciate you to consider joining us or renewing your membership, as it supports these kinds of community forums that we present to our communities. On your seat, you will see a little slip of paper. This is our new thing we've implemented because we want to make sure that we are keeping our programs relevant. So if you don't mind, at the end of this session, if you would just fill out those surveys, we have a box in the very back of the room where you can just drop it off, and we welcome any comments or feedback, suggestions for future topics. Let's see, our upcoming Beaches Watch meeting will be next month, Wednesday, September the 4th. It will also be at 7 o'clock here in the library. This is going to be a topic that we are becoming more and more concerned about, and that's resiliency, especially living here in our coastal communities. So it's going to be featuring the Atlantic Beach Resiliency Study that they just conducted just a few months ago. They actually did hold a workshop in Atlantic Beach. So if you missed that workshop, please make sure you mark your calendar and attend the meeting next month. Right now, I'd like to just also recognize our elected officials and other distinguished members. So we will start with Atlantic Beach. If we have any of our elected officials, if they would please stand and we could recognize you. Please remain standing. We have Mayor Ellen. Anyone from Neptune Beach? Jacksonville Beach.
Andy.
We also have Jackie Smith, who is the Director of Special Ops for Congressman Rutherford's office. And I see we have Judge Gary Flower in the back. Welcome, Judge. Anyone else who would like to be recognized? Okay, thank you. So we will go ahead and begin this evening's meeting. So we'll start with our beach. We'll just go by beaches as they go north to south. So we will have Chief Cook from Atlantic Beach to start the presentation. Thank you, Chief Cook.
Good evening. Thank you. First of all, I want to say I appreciate all of you joining us tonight. Today marks the 2-year anniversary since I joined Atlantic Beach, so really happy to meet that milestone. But I know I got ice cream cake today. So pretty happy about that. So I just want to talk about a couple of the things that we're doing in the city of Atlantic Beach. First of all, our accomplishments. This past year we were accredited, which is a pretty big deal for us. We've never been accredited before, so a lot of work went into that, and we received our accreditation earlier this year. We have, I think I may have spoken about our volunteer team that we created. So we have a team of citizen volunteers now, and we're well into the thousands of volunteer hours that our citizens come in and help us out. And we took that a step further in the past couple of months, and we have a volunteer emergency response team. So these are volunteers in our community who have agreed to come out 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to assist in case of emergency. They've received some additional training, some additional equipment, so we're really excited about that. The other big thing that we're excited about is the introduction of our Safer Watch program. Safer Watch is a free to citizens app that you put on your phone, and folks can send us crime tips or information via the Safer Watch app. And we've actually are up to 3,600 users as of today, so we're really excited that we've been able to roll the Safer Watch app out. The next question was challenges. You know, we've been pretty fortunate. There's a great team in the city of Atlantic Beach. Just a good energy, good synergy, good coordination and communication, not only with the elected officials, but the city staff and the citizens. I think Mayport Road is a challenge for us, and we continue to work on ideas on Mayport Road, and then parking at the beach is a challenge for us, and we continue to work with our city staff and our citizens to address parking. The next question was communications. How we increased in communication? I think we have a pretty solid social media presence, and we continue to take advantage of the solid social media presence that we have. And then again, Safer Watch is great for us, because the other thing that Safer Watch does, in addition to allowing citizens to send us tips, is that we can send out notices neighborhood to a specific neighborhood or to the entire city. So that allows for direct communication with direct messaging very quickly to our citizens. Next question, what infractions do we give the most tickets? We don't give out tickets in Atlantic Beach. I will tell you, our position is educate and enforce. And we probably give out more parking tickets than anything else, but a lot of those are warnings. Just for that reason, we do have some challenges on Mayport Road, but we're also sensitive to the fact that a lot of the folks that we stop are younger folks that are heading to the base to work, and sometimes I call them a commanding officer who does much more than a speeding ticket will ever do for them. So we try to leverage other options when we're stopping people from violating traffic laws. The gang activities, we're fortunate. We have not seen any gang activity in the city of Atlantic Beach. There used to be a little bit, I think, on the Jacksonville side several years ago when I rode out here as a JSO officer, but I don't have any indication or see any indication that is happening again. Thank you, Gary. Let me get your notes, because I can't shut down yet. 4th of July. We did good 4th of July. We had a pretty significant influx of people visiting us at Atlantic Beach, but we handled that well. We were prepared for it, and no big challenges for us in Atlantic Beach. We do a really good job of working with our beaches partners to prepare for those big events, and I think Jack's Beach probably takes the brunt of the visitors for 4th of July, but we were fortunate. The last question. I talked fast. I got 5 minutes. Thank you, Steve. How can citizens help us? That's a great question. Far too often I get emails or text messages or phone calls or Facebook messages, and somebody says to me, well, the other day I saw. And that is so tough, because we, law enforcement, we want to serve, we want to help, we want to protect. And unfortunately, when people wait days or weeks to tell us about something, it's really hard for us to do anything about it. And I think my message would be tonight is that we need you to call us It's not too minor. You're not bothering us. If you do not have the non-emergency phone numbers for all 3 beaches in your phone, you need to go ahead and put them in your phone. If you are a resident of Atlantic Beach, you need to go ahead and download the Safer Watch app. The biggest thing I need from citizens is to call us when you need something. Don't wait a week. But otherwise, we're doing really well. I wanted to just quickly go over our crime numbers, since I have them. And now, I will be the first to tell you our raw numbers. We don't have a lot of raw number crimes, so any increase or decrease really hits our percentages pretty hard. But we had a 32.5% decrease in crime in Atlantic Beach last year, and we have a clearance rate of just over 22%. That's something I'm very proud of. Our response time got a lot better. We improved our response time by about 25 or 30 seconds. We handled just over 22,000 calls for police service last year. So very happy about our clearance rate and our response time. Always room to improve. Absolutely, always room to improve on that. But very comfortable with where we're at and what we're seeing. And that's all I have.
Well, thank you, Chief Cook. So we'll have questions and Q&A after everyone's presented. So if you can hold that, that would be great. And congratulations to the police department on your accreditation. That's awesome.
Okay, great. All right, everything she says, and she read off my notes. So. I'll tell you, we had a great year for us. First of all, we got an award just recently from last year for our efforts in reducing our traffic crashes citywide. So we've actually came in second in the state for agencies our size, of those 25 and under sworn law enforcement officers. And we showed a reduction in all 7 categories that Florida Department of Transportation measures. It includes pedestrian crashes, fatality crashes, crashes involving motorcycles and scooters, all those categories we showed a reduction in. What's the way they kind of weigh the award is they also look at the number of citations that you wrote from the previous year to the current year, and it shows that our education techniques that we're using with our drivers, such as warnings and explaining the law to them, is working, because we actually wrote 1,200 less tickets from the year before that showed all those losses and the stats, drop in stats. So we're really proud of our guys out there. We also we had over 168 DUIs in Neptune Beach last year, and we had one officer that did over 100 of those on their own. So we really, this is we're in the middle of both cities. We're the smallest city, but you can't get from one end of the beach to the other end without coming through our territory. So, if you're in Jacksonville Beach having a night on the town and you live in Atlantic Beach, chances are you're going to meet one of our guys if you're doing something. Also, this is our second year now of doing the School Safety Liaison Program. I don't know if anybody had seen that in the media last year, where we put assigned two officers to the school, not full-time, but they stop by the school during the day, during peak times, during the lunch hours. They do it during the morning hours when the kids are coming in and out of school, and in the afternoon hours when they're exiting school. They meet with administrators from each school every single day, make sure everything's doing. Even though they have school resource officers or school guardians, we still meet with them every single day, see if there's anything, they're having any issues, and then we collaborate with the other agencies that work in the school. So it's been very, very successful. Another thing that we did this year is that we upgraded our animal control kennel. So we put a new dog run in with artificial turf, made it much safer, much cleaner, much easier to take care of. And And so that was a big accomplishment for us, and we needed it for years and years, and it finally came to fruition this year. So very thankful for the city council for funding that. Let's talk a little bit about our challenges this year. I'll tell you, this was the first year we actually hosted the Donna Marathon at the beaches. We've been involved in, all three beaches have been involved in the marathon in some form or fashion, whether it's traffic or part of the actual run through all the years. However, this the first year was actually based on the beach. So no one crossed the bridges. We had to deal with all the traffic. And it was a challenge. It was a 9-month planning operation between all three beaches, a collaboration with the sheriff's office, who helped us as well. So, and as far as I'm concerned, it was a huge success. We pulled it off without any type of major incident. Obviously, there's those medical incidents that happened during the run, but very little has to be tweaked for us to do it again this next year. There's always room for improvement, and we always look for the input from our citizens if we can do it better, and we do get that feedback from them. All right. I think about our communication between, what we do for our communication between our citizens and the police department. We have a huge social media platform, very, very active, and actually interactive. We get a lot of comments, and of course, they're not always good, and we always try to get those that have comments so we can try to explain our situation or whatever. But typically, we really have a great relationship via our social media platforms, and we try to push out as much as we can. We also have started doing the active shooter training in our churches here in the city. Very important. It's something that you have to stay up on all the time because memberships and different organizations change, and so you get half of them that are trained and half not. So it's something that you have to routinely come back to, every 12 or 18 months and retrain those churches. So we're continually doing that as well. We also have several different outreaches. We have about 26 different special events in the city each year, and no matter what the situation is, we're going to put some type of tent. We're going to have a police display there. We're going to push out bicycle safety. There'll be something at every event that we push that we have in the city, whether it's a Jarbo Park on 1st Street. Even on 4th of July, we do something. I think for citations, I think Chief Cook said it best. We educate first and write citations next. Some that doesn't work for, but we take care of business when we have to. And but I would say speed is probably our one thing that we really watch because we have the major thoroughfare lane Boulevard and 3rd Street A1A. And I think our traffic stats show that we didn't have any fatality crashes last year for the 2nd year in a row, so we're real happy with that. Gang-related activity. Again, she copied off my paper, so we really don't see any type of gang activity. Now, with that said, we're the gateway to the beaches. All three cities are the gateway to Jacksonville. So those people will come across here, and it's not saying that those people don't commit crimes, and they may be in some type of gang, but as far as an organized gang activity, we don't see any of that here. But we also stay very engaged with our partners at JSO. They have an intelligence unit, they have a gang unit. We have crime analysts that come to our stations every week. So we're getting all their data, so we're able to be looking at trends and things like that may be gang related. So we're always be on the lookout, and we share all that information between all of us. Something else that we've done is, for the first time in the history of Neptune Beach, we now have one of our police detectives is now cross-sworn with U.S. Homeland Security, so he's a federal task force officer. And so that's another avenue that we have, another partnership that we have to be getting information from the federal side. So he has federal credentials, so it's works the same as a federal agent. So he works through them at their office full time. And then he comes back to us whenever we need him for investigative reasons. about what the citizens do, how we connect with our citizens. We have a small volunteer program because of our size. We have about 7 volunteers, 6 in animal control and 1 in police services. And we get about 500 hours out of those 7 people during the year. So it's very small because it is hard. It's something we have to manage those programs, and because of the number of officers we have, we have to keep that program small as well. And I think that's about it.
You want the crime rate? This was good.
It's low.
It's
low.
down 33%?
It's lower than hers. You called it. Yeah, we've actually 2 years in a row we've showed a reduction in our crime rate, and I can only say that's just because one of our relationship that we have with our community, and also for the men and women in blue. You know, they're out there working the street, and we all work together. It's really one big family out here. We might have 3 different cities, but when you come to public safety, we all work together, through all of our own problems. So I don't embarrass you. I don't go through all those stats for you. So anything else? Mark?
Good evening. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And again, I'm filling in for Chief Smith. So I am going to, I've been taking my notes from the prior 2. So I'm going to be hitting some of the, obviously, the same topics that they have. As far as our accomplishments, in Jacksonville Beach, we have had a lot of accomplishments in the last year basically. With us, we've gone through a lot of change. We have a new city manager. We had a new police chief. I was the interim police chief for about 7 or 8 months. We did a national search. We did promote someone from the inside that is now Mrs. Jean Paul Smith, who is our current chief. And during that time frame, we also we got a new city manager as well. So being an employee that I just hit my 30 years, June 1st, did not know where the future held, what the future held. Love it. We're progressive. Jacksonville is a great place to work. I've been there my entire life, basically, and I'm waiting for my retirement because I pay for my daughter's wedding, who she forgets what I do for a living, her taste. But with that being said, all joking aside, we really didn't know what we were getting. We've ended up with a city manager that's very progressive. He listens to public service. He listens to the citizens. As far as with us, we have a council now that we are very fortunate to have, that we work very well with ourselves and with Chief Cook and with Chief Pike and Gary at Neptune Beach. So again, we all do work very well together. With our accomplishments, we were fortunate enough to get second animal control this past year. A lot of that has to do with some of our council people, maybe one more vocal than others. You have to see me running the camera. But we do have a second animal control officer. Fortunately, we hired the second one. We didn't know it, but the first one resigned. She already had known she was actually leaving the state. So we are currently back down to 1. But we have 2 positions, and we're looking to get someone hired. We also were able to, we just recently added another full-time position to our records section. And with our record specialist, that handles all of our matching and stuff to the state, feds, to UCR, all of our reporting, as well as public requests and that kind of thing. So we're fortunate enough to be able to add some positions that we haven't been able to do in quite some time. With our challenges, kind of going with our accomplishments, our challenges, it was a very challenging time. Back in the fall, we had one of our first officer-involved shootings. We had a couple of officers involved in a shooting. We have had suspects that have been shot. In my career, that was our first where we had an officer that was hit multiple times. That was a challenging time, not only for our community, our families, our city, our citizens, but our police department as well. And I will tell you that the outpour from our community basically fueled us to keep going. It really, I'm not sitting here being mushy with you, but it really meant a lot to know that how our community backed us and stood behind us. That was a tough challenge to get through. Along with we've had a lot of large construction type projects that are going on in Jacksonville Beach. We have a lot of hotels that are coming. We have drainage that's coming. Everyone wants good drainage that will get the water off the streets, that can help with the paving of the roads, but they don't want to do it in front of their house. So that is a challenge. That's a challenge for our city as a whole, and that is a challenge for our police department, because we're the ones that field those calls at night, and we do have a lot of road construction going on. We just have to remind our citizens that we're looking to the future, and those of them that have been around the beaches for some time, a lot of you probably in this room, you know how some of our streets do flood. So we're preparing that. We're moving, looking to the future. Excuse me. With our employee base, in my 30 years, we have been full maybe twice a ball for a couple of weeks. I should never say it, but we're almost there. We are almost there with good officers, qualified officers. Over the past 10 years, we have hired 110 police officers. We only have a 70, 69 officer force. So we have changed ranks that many times. A lot of it had to do with whether it was pay or benefits, or it was the hours or the amount of time that we worked as far as overtime. But we're fortunate enough. We have a good CRA district now. We have a CRA downtown Cape area that now houses a sergeant, 2 corporals, and 8 officers. I mean, we're getting there. So it's a lot of positive movement. As far as with tickets, there again, our main thing is compliance. We like to get compliance. Jax Beach, those of you know, we are overrun with parking spots. We don't have parking spots. Parking tickets are probably one of our number one. As far as our moving violations, it's speed. And we don't go out and write tickets just to control the speed or because people are exceeding the speed limit. We do it off of our crash data. Statistics show when you have higher speeds, cause higher crashes, cause higher injuries. So we put our officers in the areas where that crash data is to try to bring those numbers down to protect and save lives. Second behind that would be stop sign and signal violations, as well as with seatbelt violations. As far as gang activity, we are the playground of Duval County. Last couple of homicides we've had, we have made arrests of those homicides, and there were direct gang ties to those victims and suspects. Not all of them, but I'm here to tell you the last couple they were. They live in the city of Jacksonville and Duval County, but they frequent our cities. If you haven't been to Jacksonville Beach on a Friday or Saturday night, as with the other chiefs, they can attest as well. Come out to our bar areas, our entertainment area, and see what kind of crowds we have, and you will be amazed if you haven't been out there in a while. The people are coming. The Ubers, the Lyfts, the parking, they're coming. It's hard to believe that we don't have gang activity just across the bridge, and it's going to stop at the bridge. I wish it would, but it doesn't. So unfortunately, it does spill into our community. Do we have active gangs in our city? At the current time, we don't have any documented gangs that are running in our city, that live and function in our city. 4th of July was, for us, it was actually a very good year. Our arrests were very low. We work with the other beaches. We house a transport unit, and I want to say we had maybe 5 or 6 arrests. That's a regular weekend for us. I don't know if it was because of the weather, but it could have been for the outstanding planning that we did. But for us, 4th of July was a good year this year. With our, what was the last thing? As far as with the citizens helping, we have a Citizens Police Academy and a Citizens on Patrol. Our volunteers, we average 10 to 12,000 hours a year from our volunteers. We have been recognized statewide and nationally for our volunteer corps of people. It is amazing. When I'm here to tell you that if we have a crime scene, we just had a gas leak last night, we made a phone call. We got 6 people there with vests on that can get there and help. And be there to help us walk that area and keep our citizens safe. We have people that do our ticket entry, that do our data entry, that assist with our vehicle maintenance. God forbid, we just had another tragedy this past weekend with an officer. We have, obviously I haven't missed many meals, but we haven't missed any this week because our volunteers are taking care of our officers. And our citizens citizens are as well, and it's good to have that volunteer base. We have a very active program to the point to where they come in and actually write tickets as far as parking tickets, assist with minor calls for service as far as maybe a cell phone was lost or stolen or that type of thing. Great resource. As far as our UCR, our numbers are down, compliments of Chief Cook, 9.7%. I do have some numbers that I'm going to kind of leave this with you. These are our numbers that are posted online as far as our statistics for 2018. This is for Jacksonville Beach. Our calls for service, we had 58,031 calls for service. Police response activity, which means if a call requires more than one officer, say there was 4 officers at the scene, that number was 86,980. We had 9,843 traffic stops. We had 911 calls. We had 7,469 911 calls. As far as our FCIC, NCIC entries, which means something was actually, I have 30 seconds. The entries was 235. And as far as our property reports and records requested, we have over 663 record calls just to our city. And our property reports until about 278. So those are our numbers for Jacksonville Beach. So again, thank you all for coming.
Okay, so we will have a Q&A, and I ask that you just ask the question, not give us a dissertation before the question's asked, to make sure everyone has an opportunity. And then if you would hold tight after the Q&A, I'd like to call Mayor Ellen Glasser to the front, and she has a proclamation that she would like to present. So we'll go ahead and start with Q&A, and then you have your hand up first. Go ahead.
Jacksonville, I'd like to know how the police department is addressing the homelessness problem.
In Jacksonville Beach, our homeless numbers are, we have homeless in Jacksonville Beach. That's not a drive anywhere you can see. Fortunately for us, we do have that problem. We do have to answer calls for service. We have to remember that being homeless is not a crime. Some people are actually down and out on their luck, and they do need assistance. We try to offer that assistance when possible. What we can't tolerate, though, is when we have the homeless that are constantly panhandling, aggravating our citizens, approaching businesses, going into business, sleeping in public, drinking in public, urinating in public, defecating in public. Those happen. When those happen, we do make cases and we do make arrests. As far as camping in public, we have officers that check our beach every morning. And we have people that are down there sleeping on the beach, camping on the beach. They have to meet the criteria. They have to have their either bedding or a tent or something where they're actually camping. We notate that. We warn them. If it continues, they are physically arrested. So we know that issues are there, but we deal with them as best we can. We have a Constitution in the U.S. We have to abide by that Constitution, and we do legally what we can. The thing that we can do is that when people have those issues, people are harassed, are constantly harassed for money or with the panhandlers or whatever it might be, call us. I mean, we got to get the calls. Just like Chief Cook said, you have to call us to assist. You have to do your part, and then we can come do our part.
Yes, ma'am.
In regards to animal control, is there still a coyote issue?
That's another thing. All right.
We're not saying coyotes. We got a call the other day of a coyote in the dunes, and it was a golden retriever. Let me say this about coyotes. So we had coyote sightings in Atlanta Beach. We had a couple of cases, one, maybe 2 cases of pets being attacked by a coyote in Atlanta Beach over the last few years. We just wrapped up a 6-month-long study, for lack of a better word, where we put out game cameras, and then we partnered with citizens who had cameras in their yards that faced the wooded area. We saw 4 coyotes over 6 months, and we did a bunch of education, did a bunch of education in the community to include how to haze a coyote if you see one, But our biggest thing that I think helped us is we worked with the folks that were feeding the feral cats. Because if you put cat food out to feed the feral cats, you're drawing in coyote activity because of the cat food and the cats. So we worked with our folks that were feeding feral cats and redirected their efforts. And we have not had, knock on wood, an issue with coyotes in a while. In fact, on our game cameras, it's pretty neat. We see otters and raccoons and rabbits and all kinds of wonderful wildlife. We did, with the cooperation of FWC, develop a community action plan for coyote management or wildlife management. And it's seen as the template, best practice in the state now of the combination of education and the study and using volunteers to gather data. So we're proud of that.
I have a kind of two-part question. In Atlantic Beach, you had 22,000 calls for service. What did you have in Neptune Beach?
About 19,000.
Okay, in Jackson Beach, you had 58,000?
Yes, 8,800 or 900.
Okay. Of all those calls, what percentage are people here, and what percentage are people from elsewhere? Each beach.
I wouldn't have an exact percentage.
Oh, I
When you say people that are here, you mean people that live here? Or
yeah, people that live here.
I don't know if there's any way of even figuring that out, because if somebody sees something or hears something or is somewhere they need help, we don't, unless we're writing a criminal report, we don't typically ask them where they're from or where they live. That's an interesting question, but I have no way of knowing.
I've talked with past chiefs, and that just by reading the beach's leader, and you go down and you see the crime reports and stuff, you look at it, especially, well, first of all, Jack's Beach is huge. And most of, I would say, a large percentage of people.
They do not live to reside in our city.
That's right.
They reside from the county, they come out, it's the playground of the county, they come out, they go to the bars, the restaurants, or to the beach, or whatever they're gonna do. And unfortunately, it's our issue that there are county residents or our neighbors, where we just have to educate them that if they're gonna come out to our city, that we invite everybody to come out, but we have rules. And the rules are in place for a reason, and we're gonna enforce those rules.
Unfortunately, the citizens have to pay for that. Would it help all three of the cities? And I've noticed this, I've talked to police officers, and if they do make an arrest, they have to arrest that person, take them all the way downtown, book them, and by the time they get back, at least 2 hours has passed. That's 2 hours that an officer is off the beach, off being able to do their job. Would it help if Duval County stepped up, since most of the people that require this service do not live here, and provided transport or for lack of a better word, mobile jail? I've seen other cities in Florida have that, and then it periodically goes downtown, so it doesn't take our officers off of their job.
Absolutely, and I'll speak on this. On the holidays, we do that. The jail, they'll call us, say, do you need a correctional officer? Yes, we do. We'll get a van, we'll get an officer, and usually they're staged in our city or one of their cities. And on the holidays, if they have a prison, when they have prisoners to go, they'll call our city, say, hey, we've got a prisoner, hey, bring them on down. And we'll take them all down together with the jailer, the correctional officer will. As far as with, can we do it on a nightly basis? I don't know if it would really warrant that. However, when we do special details or on busy weekends, we do plan for that. We will have an officer that handles transport. So that officer comes in, and that officer is going to basically be available to handle our transport. And that would be for our city or for Neptune or Atlantic Beach. And they would do the same for us. And we actually have a van. Sometimes if they've got multiple arrests, we'll send the van, or we'll go pick them up for them and run them down the van. Because you only take usually only 2 people per vehicle, unless you have a multi-vehicle.
And lastly, how is officer retention doing? Especially, I know Jacksonville Beach had a problem for a while. I don't know if they still do.
I would like to say in the past year, our outlook is very good. We did some minor policy changes within our ranks of our department, very minor changes that appeared minor to some of us old timers, but the young people love it, they embrace it. It can be everything from a tattoo policy to facial hair. And it's time to change. We're changing with the times. So our brothers and sisters do it at the other beaches, and as an interim chief, I did that as well. And because we were losing out on a lot of good qualified people because they had tattoos.
Yes. Yes.
I'm going to stand up because I can see. I'm probably the minority in the room, but I'm going to ask a question for my fellow neighbors in Jacksonville Beach. I know 4th of July is huge and New Year's is huge, and we don't have the resources to be everywhere. And we try to be very sensitive for what you're handling in the business district and here. But once again, this year, the illegal fireworks out in the community is extremely annoying. This year, it started on the 2nd, and it went all the way through Sunday night, even down on the beach. My word to those people was, if all of us liked it, we would all be doing it. And I know you don't have the resources to cover it, but is there some kind of education program or something that could be done to solve the problem?
Yeah, absolutely. And we all see it. I live right across the bridge. We have it in our neighborhood as well. Again, you have to call us. It may take us a little bit longer to get there. We offer a 3-minute.
We don't want to bother you on New Year's.
Yeah, but that's call us. That's our job. We brag about our 3-minute response time, and we're going to live up to it. We have officers assigned east of A18. We have officers assigned west of A18. We don't focus just on our business district. We do focus on our residential areas as well. With that being said, can we get them all? Absolutely not. Do we get a lot? Absolutely. We have barrels in our squad area. On the 4th of July, when we confiscate illegal fireworks, they're dumping in those barrels, and they're disposed of at the fire department. We collect a lot of them, to the point where we place our barrel out, as the fire marshal has to inspect it to see where it's going to be. So we do collect a lot. Unfortunately, if you've got 100,000 people that are within the city, and I've got 55 officers working, the law of that, we can't get them all, but we do try to get them. How could we get all of them? I don't know, unless we had somebody every other house. I don't know, because fireworks back in the day, you had to know somebody that was driving out of the state to get them. Now, not only, you've got firework sales areas that pop up. If you notice, we don't have any of those in Jacksonville Beach. We don't permit them. So, but they do have them in other areas. They purchase them there, or they drive to some other firework distributors.
Well, part of the education, most of these are residents. And when you approach them, they say, we had no clue. We can buy them here. We didn't even know we weren't supposed to be using them. Our neighborhood, we all try to be.
Is that something we might could look at? We're getting stronger with our social media. Atlantic Beach and Neptune Beach, their social media is, we follow them, they've got it. We've got new people in place, and we're coming up with our social media, so that could be something that we could do.
That'd be great.
In follow-up to that, I saw that Atlantic Beach had signs posted at all the beach accesses around July 4th that said that fireworks were illegal if they explode or whatever. You can't do that. Did that help at all? Do you think that the fireworks were any less this year with that?
I think it was about the same. We do our best to educate, but like Mark said, there's just a lot of people out there. We do our best. Maybe as a community next year, do a community-wide initiative about being neighborly, and maybe appeal to people to, hey, just 4th of July, keep it legal. Not the 2nd of July, not the 7th of July, the 4th of July. Next year, 4th of July will be on a Saturday, I believe. Yes. Who all wants to volunteer? Maybe look at a community-wide initiative on just being neighborly about the fireworks use.
Are your calls for opioid overdoses are they about the same as they've been? Are they getting any better? What do you think?
For our small city, I think this past year, we did have an increase from the previous year, but it seems to have tapered off. Most of the agencies now have implemented a Narcan program, which is the antidote that, you're able to give these patients on immediately when we respond. But I have seen a trend kind of taper off a little bit for us in our small city. You have to remember in Neptune Beach, we're a veteran community. We don't have the commercial districts. We don't have the multi-housing units that the other two cities have. So I want to say we're blessed by that, because that really does keep our crime numbers down, because we don't have those big commercial districts, and that's what makes us special here.
I would agree. We haven't seen an increase or a decrease. Seen a couple of repeat customers, which is sad, but it doesn't alarm me right now in Atlanta Beach. It's kind of on the periphery, but for Atlanta Beach, I would say we've tapered off.
We've had them, and we currently get them, unfortunately, in Jacksonville Beach. We do have them. I don't know what the specific numbers are right here tonight, but we do have them. There's quite a few, to the point where we do have our investigative unit tracking them. As far as repeat customers, we have seen people that have OD'd, that have got Narcan and went to the hospital, got out, OD'd, went to the hospital, got out, and then passed away on the third day. So, at what point, we can't be within 24 hours a day, but we have seen it.
Is the Narcan, is that a real expense for your agencies?
We don't carry, we do not carry it for our officers. Our fire department has it, and obviously the rescue department has it, this department does not have it.
Just a quick question for Chief Cook. There's fireworks for sale on Mayport Road. So is it legal to sell them, but not legal to use them?
They're on the Jacksonville side. We don't talk about fireworks. Now, by law, permitted, they can only sell legal fireworks, but we all know that.
Yeah, most of what we see is
livestock.
Yeah, in the back of the truck, they've got the livestock fireworks to run off the cows or coyotes or something, I don't know. So people get around it, and we'll keep an eye on that next year. It is on the Jacksonville, the Duval County side of the road, but we can keep an eye on it. Okay. Maybe send some undercover officers up there to see what they can buy.
So that was my quick one, but the first one, my real question is for each city, if you could wave a magic wand and solve your biggest problem, what is it for each of you? I'm going to guess what, but Jack Beach is since I was your class.
What would you think it is?
Illegal guns on your stops, the percentage is so high.
We do have a lot. We've got, I want to say all the traffic stops since April, we're up to 20-something. I'm saying most of those were stolen. Several of ours, one of our last homicides that took place on the 4th of July 2 years ago, last year, that gun was actually come back to link to a homicide in Jacksonville. So that's a big problem. I think a lot of us as a whole within the city is we have so many visitors that come to the area. We had to come up with a creative way to where we had more officers on the street at those peak times without burning our officers out. We were a victim of our own success. Officers work overtime. They make good money when they work all the time, and it looks good for the first couple of weekends, but you can't keep doing that to your officers. And we know that, and the sad thing is once the business owners or the elected officials or the residents get used to seeing those amounts, it just wasn't sustainable with what we had. So that's why when we look to our CRA, we have a downtown Cape area. So now those officers are assigned, and just so the residents know, because a lot of people say with our entertainment district, we've got the sergeant, the 2 corporals, and the officers that work down there. If, let's say, across A1A, if there is a burglary, that officer, in order for that officer to leave that CRA district and go handle that burglary, they have to be asked by a supervisor, they have to come off of the CRA timesheet, they have to go on the patrol timesheet, they have to handle their paperwork, and then they have to go back on the CRA. So when people say that the officers you know, our area is taking the officers out of the neighborhoods. Those officers in the neighborhoods are staying, and those officers in the CRA are staying, because when they cross like that, it's a little bit easier. If it's an emergency, we're all going. We'll deal with the paperwork later. If it's an emergency, we're going. But there's still guidelines that we have to follow.
Well, I think for us, just real quickly, parking frustrates a lot of people.
Really, I think for us is, when we get the trends of unlocked car burglaries, we'll get, unfortunately, we'll get 10 or 12 in a 2 or 3 night period.
And many of the guns.
And that's unfortunately one of the big things. A lot of our guns that are stolen are coming from unlocked vehicles that owners have left them. But we are recovering a lot more guns even on our traffic stops than what we've seen in the past 2 or 3 years. We've increased our security, like dancing in the streets and our festivals. We've required wanding, and we've required the festival vendors and the promoters to pay for extra security, private security to go through people's handbags, and we put public service as a. But this past year, we've recovered 2 firearms coming into dancing in the streets, you know, and drugs, you know, from that. So those are, you know, it's commonplace. We're not immune from getting guns and, you know, illegal guns coming into the city. So, thank you.
Yes, I'm trying not to beat the dead horse, but I'm here about the fireworks. I live in Jacksonville Beach, and it was really bad this year, as you stated, and I appreciate that you're aware of it and that it's a challenge. But my question really is, what can you do? I mean, can you write a citation?
We take them, we confiscate them.
But is that all you can do?
Yeah, I mean, there's some that we can, but you have to, with fireworks a little bit different, because a lot of it with the state statute, it depends on how far they go up, what they do. It would take the officers even longer to sit there. We don't know what kind of fireworks they are. I see them, they go up, they go boom, they're annoying your neighbor, give them to us, we're taking them, we're destroying them. It hits them in the pocket, that's what we can do. As far as making cases on them, I mean, that would take the officers even that much longer. Would it be, you know, you're kind of looking at, you know, is it worth the challenge? At our main goal, especially on the 4th of July, New Year's Eve isn't as bad, though it is bad. 4th of July is really the big one. Our goal is to handle the calls and get our officers back in rotation so they can handle other calls. 4th of July, our traffic crashes are extremely high. We have a FHP that usually helps us, because once those fireworks are over, what people don't realize is they trickle to the beach all day long to watch the fireworks. At the end of the fireworks, they all want to be home by 10:30, and they're not even off Beach Boulevard by 10:30, because we're trying to get all these vehicles with our traffic plans out. So as far as the fireworks, I mean, we take them, and that upsets people a lot, because fireworks do cost money. They don't want to waste the money. But as far as making cases, we could, but it would take extra training, it would take extra officers, it would take extra collection. We would have to then put those into our property room and not the burn barrel. We can't put them in our property room where our other evidence is. So there's a lot of things that do take place in that.
What about the off days, the days that are not the 4th of July? It's like this other lady said.
You just have to just call us and we'll come and we'll answer the call.
Can you ask for a copy of the agricultural permit they signed when they bought them?
No, we don't do that. And the people that sell them.
I mean, people have told me, all I have to do was sign a piece of paper.
Those are maintained by the companies that sell them.
Okay.
And we don't, again, Jacksonville Beach doesn't permit any of the fireworks stands. So they're buying them outside the city and bringing them in. So I think what we can do next year is I'll talk to the chief and I'll get with the other chiefs and maybe it is an education thing. But I'm here to tell you, if we think that it's going to solve, it may help the problem. But as far as solve it, unfortunately, until we get rid of the fireworks, I don't know how we would be able to solve it completely.
Okay, we are at 7:55. There's a couple of special announcements that I'd like to give the opportunity to be given. So if you did get your question asked, I would like to stay a few minutes after the meeting. I'd just like to go ahead and make sure we close the meeting and get out on time. So Chief Cook is asked to make his 30-second announcement. So
Yes, First, and I just want to give Jack's Beach and I guess you guys are aware of Andy Lavender. And, it's a tough time for police officers right now. Police suicide is up 24% nationwide. So, we're not perfect, but if you see an officer out there, please take a moment and thank them for their service. The other thing real quickly that I want to mention is in January 2021, we are by law required to change the way we report crime. So our crime rate is going to go way up because we have to report differently, but our actual crime rate should stay about the same. We currently use UCR crime reporting. So if a person commits 2 or 3 crimes, they only count the most important crime. They don't count the other 2 or 3 crimes that they committed. NIBRS now is going to require us to count all of the crimes. So if somebody walks into a store, steals something off the shelf, shoplifting, walks out without paying, then passes somebody by and grabs their purse, robbery by sudden snatching, and then steals a car, they've committed 3 crimes. So I want to let everybody know that this is coming because it's going to sound alarming and it's going to look alarming. It's not that crime is shooting way up in our cities, it's just that we're counting differently, okay?
I'll ask Mayor Glasser to come up now.
Thanks, Maria, for giving me this time. And thank you to the panel up here and for what you do for our communities. So in a little over a year, we lost Officer Lance Whitaker with JSO. He started his career in Atlantic Beach. We had Officer Bill Ironman, who was involved in that shootout in November of 2018. And then this last week, we lost Corporal Andy Lavender. That was not a line of duty death. But in light of what these folks do for us every day, the City of Atlantic Beach has issued a proclamation, and with your indulgence, I'd like to just read it to thank them. This is in recognition of the beach's law enforcement community. Despite the risks to their own safety, every day the beach's law enforcement community, representing Jacksonville Beach, Neptune Beach, and Atlantic Beach, serves us professionally and honorably as the first line of defense against crime. These officers work midnight shifts, hurricanes, homecoming games, and everything in between, all the while conducting themselves in a manner that supports, maintains, and defends the laws of their community and the constitutions of the state of Florida and the United States. Whereas when law enforcement officers respond to a report of an armed person or a traffic stop alone late at night, the only thing that is certain is that afterward, people who were not there will scrutinize their every move and decision. And those of us who don't wear badges may fret about deadlines at work, but we don't worry that someone will try to kill us. With disturbing frequency, for example, criminals try to avoid apprehension by aiming their cars directly at the arresting officers and stepping on the accelerator. Whereas the protection of our citizens and the fight against crime is a 24-hour endeavor, exposing our beaches' law enforcement officers and their colleagues nationwide to serious danger and placing their lives in jeopardy. Whereas when a law enforcement officer loses his or her life, a part of the law enforcement community dies with their fallen colleague. Yet the heavy-hearted officers still manage to show up every day and to continue to be our guardians in our communities and to the citizens they serve. We thank them for that. So let it be resolved that as the mayor of Atlantic Beach and representing the other beach mayors, we express our deep appreciation for the dedicated service, courage, commitment, and contributions of our beaches law enforcement community. And on behalf of all of our citizens, we extend our heartfelt gratitude and best wishes for continued success and for their happiness in the future. So this was written with Corporal Lavender in mind, but it's really for all of the officers. So I'd like to give each of you a copy of this proclamation, and it'll be entered into the Atlantic Beach City Record. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you so much again. This is all coming well. programs that we host, and we thank you again for your service and for the service of your forces. Okay, so don't forget the survey, please fill that out, it'll take a second. And those who are able, if you can help pick up your chair and let's stack them away, we can get out in a timely manner.